All righty. All right, we're going to begin, folks. Good evening and welcome to the March 30th meeting of the Falmouth Conservation Commission. This meeting is being held virtually via Zoom video conference. Please be patient. We'll do our best to be efficient and allow everyone to participate equitably. This meeting is also being broadcast and streamed online by FCTV in real time. As this meeting is being recorded by Zoom, broadcast by FCTV, please be cognizant of what you say, how you say it, and what can be seen and heard in your background. The chair acknowledges the attendance and continued support of our entire staff, Jen, Alyssa, Liz, Mark, Amy, and Kristen. We're short a commissioner tonight. Therefore, Pat, you're the appointed alternate tonight. And I'd like to remind you guys, if you're commenting, I'll call on each of you at the appropriate time so we can refrain from speaking over each other. Also, all the votes have to be done by roll call. When I call your name, please state your name and your vote, even if you made the motion or the second. To our public participants, at any time during this meeting, you may enter any comments or questions via the chat function. At the appropriate time, they will be read into the record. The link and further instructions are located on the agenda. And as per the chapter 22 of the Acts of 2022 regarding COVID-19 allows for full public participation. Therefore, if you'd like to be heard on a specific hearing, let us know via the chat function. Then at the appropriate time, I will call for public comment. When you are selected, you will be moved into the hearing as a participant. As such, you must have your video enabled, be succinct and respectful of others. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. And for those of you waiting for a particular hearing, and so you don't wait unnecessarily, Quaker Road, Lot 2 is being withdrawn. With that, first item up is minutes of March 9th.
I move that we accept the minutes of March 9th, subject to any amendments made this evening.
Gladfelter, second.
All right. And the chair acknowledges that Courtney Bird has joined the fight. All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the minutes of 3/9 as submitted. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury.
Carla Hawks, aye.
Pat.
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
Steve. Oh, I'm sorry, Steve's not here yet. Close enough. We accept the minutes. Thank you, Kristen. Next up are vote minutes, March 16th, 2022.
I wasn't present, but I think I can still make the motion. I move that we accept the minutes of March 16th, subject to any modifications made this evening.
Bird, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to accept the minutes as submitted for March 16th. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury.
Carla Hawks, aye.
Pat.
I should not vote on this. I probably shouldn't. I think the motion's fine, but I shouldn't vote on it because I wasn't there.
Oh, I'm sorry you said that. Okay.
Well, I wasn't there either, but I voted because you made the motion.
Ministerial responsibility.
Jeez. All right. Peter.
Walsh, aye.
We have enough. We're accepting them anyway. Thank you, Kristen. Next up, requests for determination of applicability. First up, Thomas Crane, trustee, Thomas S. Crane, 2000, revocable trust, 35 Juniper Point Road, Woods Hole, Mass. For permission to grade and seed, install native plantings, and trim vegetation. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury?
Harlow Hawks Eye.
Thank you. Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Robert Mila, 57 Paola Drive, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to upgrade and repair an existing failed septic system and install a new Title V system. Ms. Bergeron.
Staff recommends a -2 under the bylaw and a -3 under the state. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Harlow Hawks Eye.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to upgrade, repair, and install. It's new on me. All right, Betsy,
Sometimes I just copy what they say.
Gladfelter, aye.
all good. Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Harlow Hawks Eye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
I think my video, my audio is cutting out maybe. Peter,
Walsh, aye.
sorry about that. It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, John I. Reed and Helen Hollingsworth, 50 Little Island Road, West Falmouth, Mass. For permission to install a dry well to replace the existing walkways and driveway and to rebuild existing landings in the same footprint. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -2 under the bylaw and a -3 under the state. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Harlow Hawks second.
we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Harlow Hawks Eye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It's unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, state of Michael S. Noonan, 6 Cove Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to upgrade the existing subsurface sewage disposal system to meet Title V regulations. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -2 under the state and bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Harlow Hawks second.
all right. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Harlow Hawks Eye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, Laura Siegel, 12 McGregor Road, Woods Hole, Mass. For permission to vista prune according to FWR 10.18, 10B, and cut at the base of invasive plants. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Harlow Hawks second.
all right. We have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Harlow Hawks Eye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. Next up, continued requests for determination of applicability. First up, Michael Ryan, 140 Associates Road, West Falmouth, Mass. For permission to install a new Title V septic system and all associated clearing, grading, and landscaping. Ms. Bergeron,
Staff recommends a -3 under the state and a -2 under the bylaw. Resource area boundaries are not confirmed.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to accept staff's recommendation. Betsy,
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Fellow Hawks Eye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
It is unanimous. We have accepted staff's recommendation. All right, next up are requests for a hearing under a notice of intent. All hearings of the Falmouth Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw. Although a single decision of the commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. As a reminder, commenting is limited to 3 minutes. So I encourage you to stay within the purview of this board, which are the rules and regulations of the Wetlands Protection Act, and the Falmouth Wetlands Bylaw, and how they pertain to a particular application. The chair reserves the right to stop any commenting that is disparaging or inconsequential to the hearing. First up, Jason Sontelis. Hope I got that right. 285 Edgewater Drive West, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to raise RAZE, an existing dwelling and construct a new dwelling with a front porch, with a porch and a deck to install mitigation plantings and to upgrade the existing septic system. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. First, Commissioner Patton has just joined us. And
Perfect. Hi,
second,
Steve.
I have promoted George Collins up as a panelist to present his project.
Excellent. Mr. Collins, you're up, sir.
Good evening. My name is George Collins from Collins Civil Engineering Group, representing Jason Sanatellis for, as you outlined, the raising, reconstruction of a single family home, proposed site mitigation plantings, and then we're also replacing the septic system. If at this point, if I could share my screen.
Yes, sir.
Let's see here, excuse me. So this property is located on the west side of Edgewater Drive West. It has Eel Pond. Eel Pond is to the west. We have a salt marsh and a coastal bank in this vicinity here. One of the items that staff mentioned to me is I have a 50-foot salt marsh buffer zone here, which I have revised, but this is the plan that you have before you. And then up in this location, that is the 100-foot buffer to the coastal bank. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more here. The existing house and patio are outlined in green. It's just a very fine green line in this location. And then the proposed house is outlined in red. And this is the porch, the deck facing the water. And then there's a front porch and steps in this location. Up in this area, I have the calculation for the existing impervious and proposed impervious with the calculations for the required mitigation area. The two mitigation areas that I'm proposing are, one is located here. That is a 681 square foot mitigation area with 76 plantings. That has been amended per staff comments. And then this area here is a 919 square foot mitigation area with 102 plantings. Again, that number has been modified per staff comments. I have 2 trees proposed for, to meet the requirement for 1 tree per 1,000 square feet of mitigation. I have proposed dry wells in this location, that location, and that location, which will collect the downspout, all the downspouts from the proposed house. I have a parking area located up in this location that's out of the 100-foot buffer zone to the coastal bank. We also have the proposed septic system in this location, which is also out of the 100-foot buffer zone of the coastal bank, and we do have Board of Health approval on that. As far as erosion control, I have erosion control proposed along the work limits on the north and south portions. And then it's in the narrative. It just, the plan was getting too busy, but I have proposed erosion control on the on the northwest and southerly sides of each of the mitigation areas. So there will be erosion control in place between the resource area and proposed house. At this point, like I said, there was a couple comments from staff. One was the labeling the 50-foot salt marsh buffer zone. I did submit a revised plan digitally to staff yesterday. Staff recommended that I did not share that. I can share that drawing with you if you'd like, but just so for consistency's sake, this is the drawing that I believe you have in front of you. But that I've added the 100-foot salt marsh buffer zone, which is up in this vicinity, to the revised plan. There is a comment about the patio is not considered part of the present primary structure. I do have a dimension of 43 feet between the patio and the coastal bank, and then the proposed closest structure is 46 feet. This patio, I do have some photos that I sent to staff, and I can also bring those, I can share those photos if you'd like, but this is an elevated patio area. It's like a retaining wall system with blocks, and then that in this vicinity under the deck, the existing deck actually rests on top of the that retaining wall that goes around the patio. So it's just I just try to address the comment about the fact that it's not considered part of the primary structure. And then, but it's not just a standalone patio. It actually has, it's actually a masonry block retaining wall system. So it is a substantial structure. It's not just a patio. And then the other comment from staff was regarding the number of plantings that I was proposing. I was proposing 168 plants. Their calculations came up to 190 plants. Again, with the modified plan that I can share with you, or if you think it's appropriate at this time, I've modified that. I've added the plantings to mitigation area 1 and 2, totaling the 190 plants outlined by us in the staff comments. At this point, I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that the commission or staff may have.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. You can stop sharing for the moment. Jen, do you want to begin?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. George, thank you for sending us that revised plan. I can confirm to the board that those modifications had been made. So George, if you could just, if there's no more revisions this evening. If you could just pop 2 hard copies in the mail, that would be great.
Absolutely, yep.
Okay. So thank you for modifying the buffer zones, updating the planting, plant totals. That's helpful. The only thing the board needs to decide is whether or not you consider the patio to be part of the present primary structure. If yes, then the plan appears to be fine. If you don't feel that it's part of the present primary structure, then modifications will need to be made to the plan. And I think that's about it, unless Alyssa has anything to add that I might have missed.
Nope, I think you covered everything. Thank you.
And I do have some photos if the chairman or commission thought it was a.
Yeah, why don't you throw those up, Mr. Collins, real quick?
So I'm not sure whether or not, let's see. See if I can find them here. There we go. Actually, this might be a good one to share. So this is, I'd like to share 2 photos. This is the block retaining wall. The patio is up on top of this. This block retaining wall actually connects to this part of the, this is like part of the concrete. This is part of the foundation, and then the deck is sitting on top of it. And so again, it's again, it's a substantial structure. Whether we consider that part of the primary structure, obviously that's subject to interpretation. The porch that I dimensioned, the proposed porch or proposed deck that I dimensioned to is not the primary structure as well. Let's see if, and then there might be another photo here that I could share that might be helpful. Let's see here. Let's see here. Sorry. Guess this one might help. So this is, if you recall, in the previous photo, this is part of the block wall that.
George, we're not seeing it.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're not seeing it. Geez, I'm sorry. Wait a second. I apologize. Can you see that?
No,
No.
might have to double click it, George.
There we go. Wait a second.
George, is it the 2 you sent me and Alyssa?
Yes. Yeah.
All right, hang on. If you want to stop sharing, George, I think I can bring up the picture you sent.
Okay. Sorry about that.
No worries. Mr. Chairman, can I share my screen for the board?
Absolutely.
Is that the picture you wanted, George?
Yes. Yeah. The previous photo was from the water looking up, and then this is underneath the deck. And then this is part of the block wall system that continues this way into the retaining wall that wraps around to the retaining wall system associated with the patio. So it's just, again, I just thought it was just a little bit of extra information that might be helpful to the board, to the commission.
Yes.
Is everyone all
Thank
set?
you. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Commissioner comments. Betsy.
So, Mr. Collins, would you put your plan back up again, please?
Sure.
I just want to point something out. I think this is kind of moot about talking about the patio, because I think that the patio that you're proposing doesn't go any closer than the former patio.
That's correct.
You see this deck here? Well, you can't see what I'm doing, but you see where the old deck is? And it meets the plane, the line of the quote new deck, which actually slants away from the resource.
Yeah.
So I don't think you're moving any closer. That's my only comment.
All right. George, I might eat my words, but you can stop sharing again.
Okay.
Till the next time. All right.
Yeah, no,
Court-
that's all I have, Jamie.
Thank you. Courtney,
I have no questions.
thank you. Maury,
I just had two questions. So the Board of Health, you have a permit from them already?
Yes, yep, I actually have, I have that. I could
No.
try to share it.
No, you don't have to share it. I just want to make sure.
I
because
do, we
usually-
do actually have the digital permit.
Okay, just
for the
so
court.
if you would put, when you get a variance, because you had to have a variance from the coastal bank, am I correct?
No,
Say that, oh, I thought you said you had a variance. for that.
no,
Okay.
no variance.
And then as far as moving closer, I'm not sure I agree with Betsy totally, because I'm just concerned that patios will start to become houses and structures, and I'm looking at that plan and it's close. So I'm just gonna keep looking at it. Thank you. That's all.
all right. Pat. You're muted.
Betsy, I understand when you're looking at the deck of the original house, and that the proposed house is not moving closer than the deck except for the new deck. The new deck is moving closer to the resource area unless you include the old patio as part of the primary structure. And I'm with Maury on this one. We've had a number of cases where there were pretty substantial patios with retaining walls and other characteristics where we said it wasn't part of the primary structure. So unfortunately, I think there's going to have to be a little bit of new redesign. At least that's my opinion. And Mr. Collins, thank you for your color coded plans. It makes it much easier when we're out in the field. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Nothing else,
Peter?
Mr. Chair.
I'm with Betsy with this one.
All right. Steve.
Thank you. Mr. Collins, I just wanted to congratulate you on listening to our staff and responding to their recommendations. It makes our job a lot easier and probably yours. I am with Betsy on the back.
All right. So George, I'm gonna say the same thing. I like the way you do the plans. I like the mitigation, that it's where it should be, that you listen to staff. I agree and disagree with Betsy. However, I also see that foundation as adequate to constitute primary structure. That's my opinion. All right, Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
No, Mr. Chairman. But if the board would like me to, I have George's color-coded plan kind of blown up on my screen. If you want me to share the screen, I can show.
Shoot.
It's close, it's really close, but it's still moving slightly closer than that existing deck. But let me just show you what I mean. Oop, you see the screen or you see me?
You see your screen, your home screen.
Okay. Got it. Hang on, let me try this. Sorry about that. So I think this is where Betsy meant, and this is the actual deck. This line is the V-zone boundary line right there. Sorry, that's the line for the deck. So just to give you that information.
So if it were to move back, it would be,
It's only like a foot or so.
George, would you have any problem adjusting that?
If that's what would make the commission feel comfortable, absolutely.
I think it would help us, yes.
So I suppose unless there's any other questions, if you think it's appropriate, I would request a continuance.
Okay. What do you have for a date then?
George, if you can bring that back, you can bring that line back. And I think it, like I said, I think it's only like a foot or so. If you can bring it in line with that, where that deck meets the patio on that corner, I don't really think you would require a continuance.
Okay, yeah, I mean, if it's possible for me, if it's possible for me to make the modifications with pending staff review, that would be even better. I'd appreciate that.
It's really up to the board, but I mean, it's such a small change. I think it's only about a foot or so. You're just shifting that deck back a foot or so. But if the board wants to see it.
Yeah, I can actually just shift the deck to the north, closer to that northwest corner. And I think that would do it.
If you're going to shift the deck now, then I would say we're probably going to get the continuance just so they can see the new location of the deck.
What were you thinking, Jen?
I think she was thinking if you actually reduce the size of the deck.
By that foot.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty busy for the next couple of weeks. That's my only thing. And then we don't meet on the 20th. So I'm looking at a continuance until the 27th of April, unless the board wants. This is such a small modification. If you wanted to see it on, you've got 4 new notices next week, 2 continueds, and one of the continueds you're not going to hear. So George, you think you could get that into me by the end of this week?
Yes. Yep. I can. Yep. I can certainly send you the digital, and I can try to hand deliver the.
If you can just get me the digital copy by the end of this week, that'll be fine. We can forward that to the board so they can see. And then if you get me some hard copies next week.
Yeah. And then I apologize. Are we talking about continuing this still?
Yes. Until next week.
Until next week. Okay. So if I get you a digital revision by the end of the week.
Yeah. For this small modification, I don't want you to have to wait until April 27th.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate your help with that. And that would put us, so that meeting would be on the 6th.
Yes.
At the request of the applicant, I'll make a motion to continue this till April 6th.
All right, we have a motion and a second to continue this until next week, April 6th. And all we're expecting is the revision to get the deck out of or back a little bit.
Correct.
Just so we're clear. All right. Let's see.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Hello, Hawkseye.
Pat,
RSI.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until April 6th. Thank you, Mr. Collins.
George, if you want to, when you get the plan done, if you want to do a quick Zoom with Alyssa and I, just to make sure we're on the same page, that would be great.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I appreciate your guidance.
All right. Next up, Paul Doucette, 334 Edgewater Drive East, East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to reconfigure the existing driveway, to remove an existing shed, to construct a new shed, and to upgrade the existing septic system. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Collins has remained with us to present this project.
Welcome back.
Thank you for having me. Again, George Collins, representing Paul Doucette at 334 Edgewater Drive East. If I may share my screen.
Yes, sir.
And this particular drawing that I'm showing is actually the modified drawing. I could try, I don't know what's going on here. I'm having a hard time. This is the one that I sent staff yesterday. The modifications are very, very minor. So I don't, oh, wait a second. I just want to, I apologize. No, this is the drawing that you have. I apologize. So this is the right drawing. This property is located, zoom a little bit more. This property is located on the east side of Edgewater Drive East, and we have Eel Pond on the to the east. We have the salt marsh is shown in yellow. The top of Coastal Bank is in green. And then again, this is an error on my end, but I have the 50-foot buffer zone to the salt marsh. And then I have the 100-foot buffer zone to the Coastal Bank, which is the governing resource. We're proposing a new septic system in this location. Currently, we have a failed cesspool at this location, and we're putting in a septic tank, pump chamber, and a leaching field. We did have to get a variance from the Board of Health to be 5 feet off the lot line. That enabled us to get the entire soil absorption system out of the 100-foot buffer to the coastal bank. The other activity that we're doing here, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. So we are, I probably should have made it a little bit more obvious, but this light green dashed line here, it's is the existing driveway. Basically, it's a loop through driveway here. It has a parking space here and a parking space here. We're eliminating all that pavement, and then we're introducing a rectangular driveway area here with a walkway up to the house. I have all the calculations here demonstrating that we have the existing and proposed. We have the existing and proposed areas. So, and I show the math that basically we're actually reducing the lot coverage by 52 square feet. So the existing shed located right here in gray, that we did not have permits for that. They just, my client was not aware that permits were required. So basically they just had a shed installed. So what we're proposing is a a new shed shown in red. It's slightly larger. So we're not taking any impervious credit for eliminating this shed. So the proposed shed and the proposed paved area is 52 or whatever that square footage was, 52 square feet in less area than the existing pavement that's being removed. So again, we're not taking credit for the removal of the unpermitted shed. So mathematically, we will be decreasing lot coverage or impervious coverage on the site. So again, we have the proposed septic system, we have the proposed pavement and the proposed shed with the removal of this U-shaped driveway. If you want, I could I'll go through the staff comments. Like I had mentioned, yeah, I did respond to staff and I sent them an amended plan yesterday. The first comment was the 50-foot salt marsh for a setback. Please remove the 50-foot salt marsh buffer, which I did, and then I added the 100-foot salt marsh buffer. So I eliminated this orange line, and then the new plan has the 100-foot salt marsh buffer. And then the existing and proposed shed are located in the 25-foot offset to the velocity zone. So this is the velocity zone line here. So the proposed shed is physically out of the velocity zone. However, this is the 25-foot offset to the velocity zone. So the existing and proposed shed are in that area. So I guess a decision needs to be made by the commission whether we want to allow that. What it is zoning. I originally proposed the shed in the front yard here, but it's my understanding that the zoning does not allow sheds in the front yard. That is my understanding. So we moved the shed back into this area. So our original plan was to put the shed here. So just to conform with zoning, we put it in this location. The reason why it's at kind of an oddball angle is there's a tree here and a tree here that we were trying to avoid having to disturb. So, and then we have the 11, there's a 10-foot setback to the lot line that's required. So we're kind of, we can't put it in the front yard, and any other location would require tree removal. So that is why we're within that 25-foot buffer to the velocity zone, but we are physically out of the velocity zone. And then the other comment was to add the back property line, which I added to the amended plan. And then there is a comment about after reviewing the photos on file, it appears the path through the salt marsh has been enlarged over the years. See photos. Staff recommends carrying kayaks into the water so that the salt marsh does not incur any more damage. Chairs, kayaks, and any other vessels needed to be stored upland of the coastal bank, as this is a velocity zone. So I did discuss that with my client. If the commission thinks it's appropriate, my client is available to speak, but perhaps I can go over a few things with them. That, you know, they understand that about the items as far as the not having them bringing the I apologize. Basically, they completely understand about carrying the kayaks in and out of the water, so the salt marsh, so we don't cause any additional damage. And then let's see. So they agree with what we're saying, and they have no issues with that. I apologize. I think there's another comment. And then there's another comment from the staff has on record that an administrative review was approved in 2018, which permitted goats to remove the existing knotweed along the coastal bank. It appears that much vegetation was removed from this area. Along the coastal bank, it appears that was any sand brought in. And again, this is probably, if you think additional elaboration is needed, I spoke to my client about that. Basically, what they've been doing, what they did is there was a bunch of composting that had been dumped over the wall on this side. So basically, they manually removed all the composting that was in that area, basically exposing the wall. And then they also have been manually removing the knotweed. They did not bring in a goat to remove the knotweed, but they have been, they did remove composting. It looked like because the previous owner had apparently dumped composting over the wall, and basically they removed that composting by hand. They did not remove, and then the only other activities in there is the manual removal of knotweed. I don't know if the commission thinks it's appropriate for my client to elaborate. My client, I do believe, is available at this meeting. Be more than happy to answer any questions that the commission or staff may have.
Thank you, sir. If you would stop sharing. Thank you. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I mean, pretty much. We have the new plan. I can confirm that the setbacks are correct now. That property line is on the plan. I think the board does just need to make a determination about the shed. And we were just kind of concerned with the path being enlarged, and then that little quote unquote salt marsh area looked kind of odd with all that sand there. So we just wanted to know what was going on over there. I would like to remind your clients that if they're going to be doing even mechanically hand removing knotweed, they do need to check with us. So, especially since you're in the buffer to a salt marsh. And that's all I have, unless Alyssa wants to add anything.
I have nothing to add. Thank you.
All right. Courtney?
No questions.
All right. I see your dilemma with the shed. I'm not comfortable with it being in even the Falmouth V zone. The only obvious place to me is the head of the driveway. That would be out of the V zone, and it appears like there's room for it. So that's my comment. Maury?
My exact comment is that I was you, Jamie. The shed could maybe go up at the end of the driveway. And then I think that was it. Thank you.
All right. Pat?
I agree with Jamie and Maury. That shed should not be in the V zone. If you can relocate it like they suggest, it's an option. Nothing further.
Thank you. Peter?
Agree with all the people before me.
Steve?
No comments, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
All right. Betsy?
What's the square footage of the shed?
192.
192? Okay, that's all I have. That's my only question.
Okay. All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
Not at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Are there any other comments from the staff or commissioners? All right. What are we thinking?
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Sure.
So again, my original plan was to have the shed in the front yard near the septic system. That was the original application that we submitted. However, based off of feedback from my client who met with the building inspector, a shed is not allowed in the front yard. So that it's a zoning issue. And that's why, because my original, again, I'm sorry, go ahead. Were you going to say something?
No, I didn't mean to cut you off. I wanted to address what you're saying. Continue, I'm sorry.
So, and again, we don't have a structure in the V zone. We have a structure in the 25-foot supplemental buffer to the V zone under the commission. So this is kind of a zoning dilemma, and obviously my client has an existing shed. We've came clean with the commission, saying that I brought it to my client's attention when I met with them that if you didn't get a permit, you need a permit for that shed. So we just, again, my original application was the shed in the front yard, so I completely understand why the commission would like us to look at that as an alternative, but it's my understanding from the zoning perspective that is not an alternative. So if and my client does want a shed, kind of needs a shed, it's a 2-bedroom house. There's no garage. There's no other outdoor storage. So if it's possible for the commission to consider allowing us to be in that 25-foot buffer zone, I believe we have, I don't know if you call it a hardship, but we're trying to do the right thing here, and we meet state regulations. No structures within the V zone. It's simply under the local requirement, and everything and putting anything in the front yard is prohibited from zoning, to the best of my knowledge.
You're right, but I would ask them to clarify what is the front yard. And the reason I say it that way is my understanding of the front yard is it's a parallel line with the front of the building. Where your house is skewed, that means that if you extended the left side of the house, the left corner, front corner,
Okay.
in that same parallel line, your front yard goes to probably within about 5 feet of your front lot line. At the
Okay.
street. So if that's accurate, and I'm not saying it's 100% accurate, but it's my understanding, you'd be able to put it halfway through that driveway if you wanted, and it would conform.
Okay.
My
All right.
other point would be if, and this is a big if, I don't think this is accurate, but if they take the front lot line and parallel it with the road, that would actually give you room on the right side for it. So, but I believe my first statement is accurate. I'm not going to say it's 100%, but I believe you have an argument there that you would not be in the front yard by their standards.
Just wondering if there's any way that we, without having to have this continued, if there's some way of us approving this subject to, or do you think it'd be better off just continuing it and coming back?
Eliminate the shed from the application for now. No, would that
We're
work,
just
Jen?
trying to avoid having to have another public hearing. Again, this is something that I could possibly modify this week. Would it be possible for us to continue it and maybe revisit it next week?
Hold on 1 second, Maury.
You're correct, Jamie, only because I just did a customer with a shed, and it just can't be in front of the house. So the parallel line of the front of the house, it cannot go out in front of it. It's just like you can't store an unregistered car in front of the house. It can be right to the edge of the corner of the corner board. It just can't go out. So I think you're 99.9% correct, Jamie, but I would follow up with that.
Hey, when that happens.
Yeah, I'm just gonna give that.
What makes this one look odd is because of the way the house is skewed to the lot line. 99% of the time a house is parallel to the road, or, reasonably thereof. So thank you for reinforcing that.
And again, just to avoid a whole nother public hearing process, if possible, I request a continuance to next week. I know you have a packed agenda, and then I will get the modified plan to staff by Friday.
If we're only talking about the shed, I think I'm okay with throwing that in there. I would suggest to you put a phone call into the building commissioner, and he can probably clarify how that lot line, how that front line works.
Okay.
Jen, what do you think? You think that's reasonable?
I think that's reasonable, and maybe we can grab either Jonathan or Gary tomorrow morning and show them this plan and see if they would agree to George. So let's see if you want the 6th, I guess we could squish it on there.
And Jen,
And then we can try to get in touch with the building commissioner or the zoning enforcement officer, compliance officer, excuse me, tomorrow morning to see what their guidance is.
and Jen, I'll make that modification tonight, and I'll email you that.
Yeah, if you email, that would be great, because then I have something to show them.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So just to be clear, so if we're going to continue this, it's only for this shed issue, and it's either solved or it's not. You know
And
what I'm
if,
saying?
it's not solved, then we can withdraw this part from the application.
Right, which I know, I get it. I hear what you're saying, but it would make
Okay.
the whole rest of the project work well.
Great.
All
Right.
right.
Again, thank you for your guidance and your,
At the request of the applicant, I make a motion to continue this till April 6th.
Bird
Our
second.
second.
All right, we have a motion, a second to continue this until April 6th. Anything else? All right, Betsy,
Lightfoot, aye.
Courtney,
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye, Maury,
Carla Hawk's eye.
Pat,
RSI.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have continued this hearing until April 6th. Thank you, Mr. Collins.
thank you very much.
Thank you,
Have a
George.
Great
Send
evening.
that to
Thanks
both
for your help,
Alyssa and I tonight,
Jennifer
George.
and Alyssa.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Laura R.F. and Stephen A. Balter, trustees, the Cape Escape Real Estate Trust, 197 Nobsco Road, Falmouth, Mass. For permission to raise RAZE, the existing single-family dwelling, and to construct a new single-family dwelling with a 3-season room and porches, to construct retaining walls and a rent station, to reconfigure the driveway, to upgrade the existing septic system, to install mitigation plantings, and to conduct invasive species management. And I see Teresa Sprague is here, so we don't need to table this. Who's hard at work in another state, sweating her butt off. All right, Jen.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've promoted Jeff Johnson up and Teresa to present their project.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, I'm Jeff Johnson from Holmes and McGrath, representing the applicant along with Teresa Sprague of Blue Flax. As mentioned, the proposed project includes the demolition and removal of the existing house and the reconstruction thereof. May I have permission to share my screen, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Maybe I should start with the existing conditions. The existing property is a 2-acre property with existing developed property with existing house in this location. There's another accessory structure back in this location. The wetland resource areas, we have Vineyard Sound, a rocky coastal beach. There's an armored coastal bank here, a small section of dune on the other side, all on the other side of Knobska Road. On the subject property, because the flood zones run along where I have these blue lines shown, there is slopes here that qualify as a coastal bank. Coastal bank it's isolated in that it's not connected to any other landform, and it is separated from the coastal bank and resource areas, does not touch them on the other side of Knobska Road. That coastal bank runs in this location up to this point where the slope breaks from 4 to 1 above the flood zone, and then for the most part, the rest of it follows the flood zone line at a slope between 4 to 1 and 10 to 1. And so it's really just up in this section. As such, that coastal bank only has a 25-foot buffer zone A, which is marked here in yellow, coming across the front part of the property. It does, however, also have the 100-foot buffer zone B, outlined in pink out here. On the rear side or west side of the property, there's another coastal bank coming up from the other side of Knobska on the adjacent property. This coastal bank does touch another wetland resource area. There's a wetland down near Knobska Pond. That's off the page. So this coastal bank has a 50-foot regulatory setback, zone A, and we're in yellow, and the B zone to that coastal bank is shown here. This exhibit is color. All the coloring on the exhibit is colored. Is the area within conservation's jurisdiction. The area that's not colored is outside of jurisdiction. It's not in the flood zone. The existing house is not in the flood zone, but there's a portion of it that crosses over or very close to the buffer zone A to the coastal bank. The proposed project shifts the it moves the house further away from the coastal bank, approximately 30 feet further than from the waters of the Vineyard Sound, but and only about 10 or 15 feet or further away from the coastal bank. All of that work is all of what we're proposing is either in buffer zone B or it's outside jurisdiction. There's no structural component here that is within buffer zone A. The house will be constructed with dry wells to contain the roof runoff. Mitigation is provided because we are increasing the square footage of the house and the impervious surfaces within buffer zone A, buffer zone B. I believe I have an exhibit here with the existing here in pink and the proposed in yellow for a total increase of over 2,000 square feet here, and we have the appropriate mitigation provided for that. We've been working with Teresa Sprague on the mitigation requirements. The mitigation planting is in this darker green area. That's more of a stippled hatch pattern. Here, in this area, and there's a little piece back here in this buffer zone A as well. There's a cleared understory of vegetation in the B zone here and here that is proposed to be completely revegetated. There's a portion of the existing vegetation that is in the A zone here that will be removed for the construction, and we are proposing to replace that at a one-to-one in the A zone. So in addition, so we have our required mitigation, we have the restoration area for the vegetation we are disturbing in the A zone. And then in addition to those requirements, we also are proposing a full invasive species removal of an additional nearly 26 or over 26,000 square feet of the lot. The project requires the removal of 6 trees and which will be replaced. The increase in the square footage in the buffer zones requires with nearly 5,000 square feet of mitigation required. 5 trees are also required. That was made note in the staff comments. There were we are proposing 13 native trees. They're shown on the landscape plan, which Teresa will discuss in a moment. But those 13 trees are all in this area. So there are 5 trees for the mitigation requirement, 6 trees as replacement trees, and then we're proposing 2 additional trees. Teresa, would you like to discuss your plan and the other staff comments? Is Teresa with us?
I am. Yep. Sorry, I was muted. My apologies.
Sorry.
Sprague with Blue Flex Design here on behalf of the Balter family. Just quickly, I'd like to just kind of go over the existing conditions if possible to give you a sense of what we experienced when we first visited the site. As Jeff pointed out, 2 coastal banks, big resource areas with buffer zones on the property, and the existing dwelling lying within the buffer zone B to the isolated coastal bank. As far as vegetation, the northern portion of the property is wooded with canopy trees consisting of oak, cherry, there's a horse chestnut, sumac, American basswood, and beech, along with a number of Norway and sycamore maples, which are invasive plant species. In that area just north of the existing dwelling, the understory has mainly been cleared. We understand from the property owners that they had received some administrative approval to remove the invasive vines and shrubs from that area. But it mainly consists of invasive and non-native vegetation, including English ivy, butterfly bush, multiflora rose, privet, porcelain berry vine, honeysuckle. On the northeast corner of the property, which you're seeing here, that area has been undisturbed. We're looking at about 60% invasive cover in that area. We do have some oak trees, some cherry trees, as well as some sumac, early successional species. The entire understory is completely invasive in that area. So overall, the intensive invasive vegetation area, management area that has not previously been covered, about 60% cover. The areas that have previously been cleared, while there's little to no shrub or ground cover layer. It is rapidly recolonizing with invasive vegetation, and we suspect that if this were allowed to continue to recolonize, we'd be looking at greater than 70% invasive vegetation in that area. As Jeff pointed out, the proposed mitigation area that we're showing on our plan is shown in the darker green color. That is lawn area that is to be removed. There's a portion of invasive vegetation on the slope on the southeast portion of the property that Jeff had pointed out on his previously planned. It's mainly porcelainberry and Asiatic bittersweet. We'll be removing that and replanting that one-to-one with native vegetation. Some of that area will be lawn just to allow for access and circulation along the southeast corner of the house, so that the property owners have enough room to access around the southeast corner, exactly where Jeff's moving his cursor. So in total, we're looking at, as Jeff pointed out, we're looking at 5,000, just under 5,000 square feet, 4,939 square feet of mitigation. And we're looking at 26,000 plus square feet of restoration. And looking at this comments from staff, we have divided the mitigation and restoration plantings out. So we are proposing 5 trees for the mitigation, for the 5,000 square feet of mitigation at a 1-to-1, 1 tree for 1,000 square feet ratio is required by the regulations. In addition to that, as part of the mitigation plan, we're planting 83 clethra, 7 inkberry, 6 bayberry, 2 beech plum, 66 fragrant sumac, 45 Virginia rose, 5 arrowwood viburnum, and 6 fothergilla, for a total of 220 shrubs. In the restoration planting area, as Jeff pointed out, 6 trees are required to be removed for the new construction and the regrading. We're proposing 8 additional trees. Tree species that we're proposing are swamp white oak, eastern red cedar, and American holly, all of which are located on the site already. In the area where that was previously cleared, where we're doing the invasive species management, a follow-up invasive species management really, and then restoring, we're looking at 81 clethra, 100 sweet fern, 27 fothergilla, 3 inkberry, 36 winterberry, 14 itea, 8 bayberry, 56 sumac, 15 Virginia rose, 121 low bush blueberry. And then for 467 shrubs in that area, plus the additional trees that we just discussed. In the restoration planting area where we're doing the intensive invasive removal, where no clearing had previously been done, we're proposing 57 clethra, 16 sweet fern, 21 dogwood, 29 fothergilla, 86 inkberry, 4 winterberry, 14 itea, 70 bayberry, 8 beech plum, 35 pasture rose, 61 Virginia rose, and 74 arrowwood viburnum, for a total of 475 shrubs. So the total mitigation and restoration for shrubs, 1,164 shrubs will be planted, and 13 trees will be planted in the mitigation restoration area total. That's how that's divided out. And I think I've covered staff comments. Oh, and then the other question regarding planting lower vegetation at the edge of the driveway. Sightlines are an issue pulling in and out of Knobska Road, particularly with the number of pedestrians and cyclists on this road. So we are proposing sweet fern and some Rus aromatica at the edge of the driveway to allow for good sightlines as the property owners move in and out of the driveway onto Knobska Road. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about the proposed mitigation and restoration plan.
Thank you, Teresa. Jeff, you can stop sharing if you would, please. Thank you. Jen.
Thank you, Teresa. So thank you for separating out those numbers, but I couldn't quite follow you as fast as you were saying it. So I know you're on vacation, but I am going to need that kind of, for us to be able to evaluate it a little bit more thoroughly, I'm going to need that kind of written out for us. Again, I understand you're on vacation.
Yeah, we had actually separated it out.
Zoom.
I know. We had actually separated that out for the clients. So I do have access to that, so I can email that to you tomorrow.
That would be great. It was, and,
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, we're gonna need to take a look at those numbers again now that we know how it's separated out. And so the trees that you're planting, that doesn't include one additional tree per 1,000 square feet, does it?
It does. So
Oh,
there's,
it does.
yes, so there's 13 trees that we're proposing total. 5 of them are counting for the 1 tree per 1,000 square feet. 6 of them are covering the 6 trees that have to be removed. And then we have a couple of additional trees that we're adding.
Okay. You answered that a percent invaded as much as you could. And Jeff, when did you have that site restaked?
This morning,
Okay, I don't think we've had a chance to get out.
those 2 areas, yes, as soon as I received that last night,
Yeah,
ordered the
that's
crews to-
fine. We just want to make sure that the trees aren't in like a heavily wooded area, that they're spread out. We've been seeing a lot of plans where trees are, planted and you look up where the stake is and there's a big tree up there. So we just want to make sure that they're spaced appropriately in the field. So that's helpful. Thanks, Jeff. And I think unless Alyssa has anything to add, that covers it, but we are going to need some more time to evaluate the planting plan.
Alyssa, do you have anything to add?
No, I think everything's been addressed, so thank you.
All right. I think it's a nice project, Teresa. I think that's a extensive plan. A lot of plants. All right, Commissioner comments, Maury.
Let me go here. And unmute. My question, I don't know if Alyssa or Jen did the plant calculator on this, but it's over an acre. It's 50,000 square feet that they said that they're going to be between restoration and mitigation, and only 1,170 plants. So it seems quite minimal. I know it looks like a lot on the plan. By the way, it's a good thing I have good eyes, Teresa, because that writing on that plan was like an aspirin bottle. I don't know about anybody else. I could barely read it. I don't even know what the little dotted ones were, to be honest. The ones that they're just little dots, and they're not even on your on the plant schedule. I want to make sure. I know it looks really full, everybody, but we just got a thing from staff on that we just did on Edgewater, and it was the amount of disturbed area, and that's why I'm just questioning it. Was way more plants were on that one than there was on this one. So I just think that we're the 3 gallon, 3 foot on center. We either have to be consistent, and we're putting a lot of low bush blueberry, and I totally understand the sight line there, because that's a dangerous road. Like maybe just really low stuff there. But if you are going to be looking at the planting plan, Jen and Alyssa, I think you need to, for over an acre of removal of vegetation and only getting 1,170 plants is probably not enough.
We can work with Teresa on that more.
Okay.
Just to address that, Maury, the list that was provided, it was labeled as only restoration and landscape plantings. It wasn't listed to include mitigation. So I didn't even run the numbers yet until I had
Okay.
information.
Yeah, and I even took the hydrangeas out because they're against the house, and it still was 1,170.
Correct. None of the plants that I presented to you tonight are included in the foundation planting, which includes hydrangeas, double file viburnum, and some geraniums and other perennials. So I did not include those in the counts that I shared with you.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
So Teresa, if you could just do like restoration, mitigation, and then the landscape plantings for us, that would be helpful. I don't really even need the landscape plantings, but it would be good to have that information. But just the restoration, the mitigation, if you could column those out for us, that would be helpful. And we'll have, we can, probably get a meeting with you when you get back. I don't know when you're heading back. Probably
I'll be back in the office on Monday.
Yeah.
Also clarify, the total square footage is about 27,000 square feet. So I think, maybe I misheard Maury. I thought she said 50,000, but,
Well, I did what you people just said. That's why
Well, it's 26,000.
it was 24,939 and 26,000. So that's 50,939.
We'll get that all clarified.
Okay.
Maury.
All right, thank you. Because I think.
Mr. Johnson, you have something to add?
It was just to clarify on the areas that 26,000 was over and above the mitigation. And so I believe Teresa was correct. It's closer to 27,000. But my number comes to 33. We'll have to clarify that. It's less than an acre, but we will clarify all that with staff.
1 acre and 1,000 plants isn't enough.
But it's less than an acre.
Thank you.
No comments, thank you.
Peter?
I have a question for Jeff. Do you think that they would have to use blasting to get through the ledge for the new foundation? Or do you think the blasting is out of the question?
We don't anticipate any blasting.
Okay, thank you.
Steve?
We've covered it, Mr. Chairman. I have no questions. Thank you.
All right. Betsy?
No questions. Thanks, Jamie.
Okay. Courtney?
No questions.
Wow. Ben, is there anything in the public chat function, please?
Nothing in the chat function, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Johnson, you have a request for us?
Yes, we'll have to request.
Unfortunately, our next available is the 27th of April.
You'll have to accept that.
Yeah, we
Yes.
unfortunately have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 6 new notices on. Unless the board wants to hear, because I mean, we only continued Theater Drive to determine whether or not there were vernal pool species in that other wetland over on the solar project. And that's the only continuance we have on the 13th. So if the board wants, we could put this on the 13th. But that, I mean, it might be a little tight for us to get together with Teresa and Jeff and then go over the plants and everything. So let's stay with the 27th.
At the request of the applicant, I'll make a motion to continue this till April 27th.
Bird, second.
Harris, second.
All right, Jeff, that works for you?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Teresa, when
We
you
have a
get
motion
back,
and a
just get a hold
second.
of us and we'll schedule a time.
We have a motion and a second to continue this until 4:27. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury?
Harlow Hawks eye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Aye.
It is unanimous. We have continued this until April 27th. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you.
Can't believe we're talking so far out right now.
I know, it's a bummer because we don't meet the 20th. Jeff, I'm putting you back into the attendee real quick. Okay.
All right, next up, Beverly A. Luckraft, trustee. Beverly A. Luckraft, One Trust, 32 Ponce Avenue, Falmouth. It's actually East Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a carport, install mitigation plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've just promoted Tom Bunker up to present his project.
Mr. Bunker, you're up, sir.
Thank you very much. Good to see you again this evening. Following up a big project, which I consider to be a fairly small project now. If I may, I'll share my screen and introduce you.
Yes, sir.
All right, can you see what I've got here? starting out with a town GIS map. This project is located, sorry. Right here, it says X999, which of course means that it's not in a flood zone. This is just north upstream from the East Falmouth Library. Mill Pond is just to the south of here. And this is a cranberry bog, and you notice the cranberry bog is in flood zone A10, basically constrained by the banks of the bog. And there's a shaded flood zone X through here, and then the property itself is in, most of the property is not in a flood zone. And so that's Bacchus Brook that goes up through the bog, by the way, and we're right across from this dike which crosses the bog. So there being a, well, I'll say first off, this is basically a riverfront area only project. We're not actually in any of the zone A or B's of any protected resource areas, but this project is within the outer riparian zone of Bacchus Brook. There is, as I said, the flood zone goes up through the cranberry bog, and so there's coastal bank along here. We have the zone A of land under a water body, zone A of wetlands that surround the river and this ditch right here. Zone, where is it now? Oh, the zone A of the, we've drawn them as the same thing, the coastal bank, top of bank, and the wetland. They're not quite the same because the wetland is down inside the ditch and probably a couple of feet further away, but I'm giving you a couple of feet of wetland zone A in this location here. And then the zone B is the 100 feet from the bank and or wetland, however you can see it through here. The lighter blue line are the riverfront areas. So what they want to do in this location, if you've been out there's a trailer parked there off and on in this location, and they want to build a carport, which is basically has 4 posts and a roof. The one side facing west will be solid, but otherwise the other 3 sides, I believe, are to be open. We have a gravel drip strip, 18 inches wide. It's supposed to be, I think there's a 12-inch overhang of the roof and then another 6 inches so that this drip strip can catch the water and allow it to infiltrate. And there's a paved driveway, but then there'll be a gravel driveway going to the carport. We have the coverage calculations, nothing in zone A or B. There's nothing now and nothing proposed. Proposed impervious coverage increase in the riparian zone, the outer riparian zone. It adds up between the carport, the gravel drip strips, and the driveway, 658 square feet. 2-to-1 mitigation planting in the riverfront, it comes up with 1,316 square feet, rounded off generously to 1,320. Have the typical notes for planting number 2 or 3 size shrubs, 3 feet on center, all that, suggesting high bush blueberry, arrowwood viburnum, and viburnum nudum. Inkberry, summer sweet, or sheep laurel, and huckleberry. There is sheep laurel in this area, and viburnum, and several of these species are already represented on this site. The site actually is there's a lot of trees on the site, but a couple areas, mainly inside of the there's a chain link fence around, or this is Lovecraft's dog. So this area inside, as you can see, it has quite a few trees in it, but basically it has, the sandy grass kind of ground cover in there. And there is an open area with no shrub layer in this location. And so we propose this for more than half of the mitigation planting in this location. And it has, of course, has to end at the property line. So it looks kind of artificial there, but that's outside of the chain link fence and up to the property line, but staying away from the existing trees there. And we also proposed planting in this area here. And there were two comments, staff report about this. One being questioning whether 510 square feet of mitigation planting can fit here. I'd like to go to another plan if I may. I could, maybe you're going to call it late information. I just went out there and checked and emailed this to Jen and Alyssa late today. So I took a closer look at the trees and I have them on here. I expanded the mitigation area before the mitigation area stopped about here, but I expanded it down to this location, still staying away from the triple oak and the other trees that are on the site. On the original plan, this tree here was called a cedar. It's actually arborvitae, several arborvitae that looks like they were planted through there. Most of the cedar trees, they're just 2 and 3 inch diameter cedar trees, are very sparse in their foliage. Cedar trees don't do well in the shade. They're in some shade. This white pine is growing up for one thing, and then there are oak trees. Not all are shown. Some on the neighbor's property also. So the cedar trees are quite bare. This is a 6 inch oak tree. There's a dead oak tree. There's a disease. This might be dead also. It certainly has disease like fungus in it. The arborvitae is severely damaged. And I think arborvitae is not a native species anyway. These cedar trees really don't warrant protecting their root structure because they're not going to flourish. But where I have the hatching here, I've shown I have it on a different exhibit. I think it's 595 square feet of hatching I've shown here, and 510 square feet of 56 to 65 shrubs are required here. So I believe it will fit. I have taken pains to, there's an area of, Calmia, Calmia angustifolia in here, and some other native, not very dense, but some other native shrub plants along here. Left the path going along this way. But I think it will fit, and actually I can go to this. On here, I will, let me see, this is the same plan, just blown up a bit, and so I'll say there's that tree that has the fungus. You can go in here. The bark is cracking, and there's these black dots. It's infested with a fungus. I don't think that's one of the oak trees. This other oak tree is dead. This arborvitae has, severely damaged along one side of it here. So I think that's not calling it to be taken out, but it's also, I don't think, in the way of planting. Basically, I've tried to show only where the ground is fairly bare. This green area is the Calmia, sheep laurel, and the two trees here, an oak and a little cedar tree. You can notice how sparse the foliage is on this one and this one here. There's a cedar tree back here. And the green foliage you see is actually the arborvitae, not cedar trees. This is the white pine. So just to show you some of that, this is looking the other way, and there's that injured arborvitae tree here. And basically, the ground is bare until you see out to the sheep laurel toward the back of that's at the end of the tape measure that I was using to measure it off. And then looking toward Pontus Avenue, this is the area that I expanded the planting area into arborvitae and the larger arborvitae, which are in good health and will stay. But see, the ground is clear of pretty much all vegetation in this location. Where am I? Where am I? There we are. And I had one comment, and I know I've been reminded that wetland data sheets are required. Just when doing this, it seemed, it's a cranberry bog. We located the edge of the cranberry bog, and there's most likely some wetland there. Hard to say. There look like there's some maybe old fern stalks and things through here, but it's hard to tell at the moment. It looks just more like an old cranberry bog ditch. I have another. Where is it? My other picture of the cranberry bog. There it is. That's where the dike, where the culvert under, and it's a messy area with all the litter that gets. Organic litter, not bad types of litter that gets put up along the shore of a cranberry ditch at the time. But if in this case, as other cases, the wetland data sheets are required, I can certainly get them in 2 or 3 weeks. And Betsy will ask, maybe more will ask, if I added a tree, and I didn't. I think that it's well treed, and I frankly can't say if I was just out there, but I really can't say if there's room to plant a tree without being under another tree, because there are, kind of widespreading oak and pine trees everywhere on the lot. Even over here where this mitigation is going and on the bank. If a tree is required to fill that in, then they can meet with the staff and determine where a tree can be planted where it will thrive. That's what we're proposing. I'll take my pictures down and take any questions.
Thank you. Jen? You're muted.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for that, Tom. I like the picture board you sent us. In this case, if you shot off the top of the bog ditch, that's fine. Don't have LEC go out there. I like the data sheets more when it's like a bog is a wetland, so it's really easy. We're going to take it off the top of that ditch anyway. So in this case, I'm okay with that. I'm going to let Alyssa. I'm going to throw Alyssa speak to the plantings because she was out there, but the area, the picture board that you sent us and what you just showed the commission, kind of clarifies where you want to put the planting, and that seemed okay. And I think that's all we have, unless Alyssa has something to add.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying with the photos, Tom. I'm still learning my plants out there, so I didn't know that was sheep laurel and that part would be protected. So the photos and the explanation really helped. And thank you for clarifying the BBW data sheets. I just saw BBW and went, data sheets, and make the claim that it was part of the bog, so that makes a lot of sense. So I think that's it from me. And if the commission did require a tree, I know that in previous applications, the homeowners did plant one within the fenced area in the backyard a long time ago. There might be some room there for a tree. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner comments, Pat?
No comments, thank you.
Okay. Peter?
Where the lot is well treed, I don't see requirement for an extra tree. No further comments.
Thank you. Steve?
No further comments. It seems like the lot only offers so many opportunities, and Tom seemed to take advantage of most of them.
Okay. Betsy?
I was not going to ask for a tree.
Okay,
She was gonna ask for two.
No, I mean, it's a well-treed, well-vegetated lot. But
Yes?
technically it is within a riverfront area.
yep.
Okay. Courtney?
No questions.
Maury?
No questions.
Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
Nothing in the chat, Mr. Chairman.
Then I'm going to make a motion to close this hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird, second.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? All right, Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Excuse me. Maury?
Carla Hawk's eye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Bunker.
Thank you
Tom,
all.
can you send me that, like a hard copy of the revised plan tomorrow, please, for the hard file?
Absolutely. After I stamp and sign it.
Great, thanks, Tom.
Okay, thank you. Good night.
Hey,
Bye, Tom.
Next up, continued hearings under a notice of intent. Robert and Carol Whalen and Robert Armstrong, east end of Ferry Road, Mass, for permission to construct and maintain a set of access stairs over the coastal bank, to restore the coastal bank, to install a fence and all associated grading and landscaping. This is a continued hearing, so we don't need to start at the beginning. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I promoted Bob Ament and Jeff Johnson up to continue their presentation.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Johnson with Holmes and McGrath, representing the applicants. I'm here tonight with Attorney Bob Ament to share with you the changes we've made in the supplemental information that we have submitted. A revised site plan, planting plan has been submitted to address the concerns of the commission. It eliminates the previously proposed post and rail fence. May I share my screen, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
This is a colored version of a portion of the revised plan, which I have submitted to staff. The former fence was up in this location. A proposed fence was up in this location. There's an existing fence at the top of the existing slope, which is going to be removed, and no new fence will be proposed. The revised plan shows provides a dedicated access to the water without crossing over the salt marsh at the south end side of Ferry Road in this location. That's to help protect the salt marsh. The numbers and the sizing of the bayberry that is proposed in this green area has also been revised on the proposed planting plan, which I can also share with you. There was a question on the square foot areas of the plantings that the numbers didn't quite match between the planting plan and our site plan, and those numbers have now been corrected for a total of 410 square feet of buffer and bank restoration So I believe the plantings include a fairly equal amount of bayberry and switchgrass, now with larger bayberry as it was requested. Also requested was some management plan, and the applicants have drafted and have a draft association management plan that was also submitted, which names the initial members of the to be formed association. It describes the installation of proper signage on the stair structure to protect the salt marsh, and we would propose a sign at the top and the bottom of the stairs, and also we believe we can also mount a sign on the side of the bulkhead. We had suggested in the filing a possibility of a freestanding sign on a post, but with staff comments, we no longer will propose that because it's in the velocity zone. Within the management plan, the name of one of the owners that will see that the stairs are maintained and the plantings watered, which is a nearby property owner. The plan also provides the names of additional owners who will regularly inspect the area for problems or issues. It provides a mechanism to remove the boats stored on the would be stored on the stairs that in the event of a storm prediction. It provides for an annual report to the commission with photographs on the condition of the bank, the beach, and the salt marsh. In addition to the management plan that was drafted, the applicant, along with Attorney Ahmed, proposed and suggested conditions that the commission could place within the order of conditions that would protect the salt marsh. One would be to the annual reporting about the condition of the salt marsh, as I previously suggested, and that it shall be submitted for the period of 3 years after the completion of the stairs. A second condition could be that if the salt marsh outside the designated 4-foot wide access area that extending the Septic River is shown to have been damaged by the stored dinghies being dragged or carried across the marsh, except within that designated access area, the commission after notice and an enforcement hearing may suspend or terminate the boat storage and may require that mechanism for the attaching the dinghies to the stairs be removed. And the third condition, suggested condition that with regard to the comments on the storms and wind, perhaps detaching the boats from the structure, could be if a dinghy becomes detached from the stairs in a storm, e.g. the dinghies were not removed before the storm or the dinghies were not properly secured and were detached by storm winds, the commission, after notice and an enforcement hearing, may suspend or terminate the boat storage and may require that the mechanism for attaching the dinghies to the stairs be removed. We have carefully listened to the Conservation Commission's concerns regarding the salt marsh and the boat storage, and we ask that the commission consider allowing it with these or similar conditions. With that, I would like to turn it over to Bob Ahmed for further comments.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff.
I assume you can all hear me. Let me know if that's not true.
Yes.
I believe that both the staff and the commission are pretty comfortable with approving the stairs and the planting to stabilize the bank. I believe that the concerns that we've heard from staff and at the last meeting have to do with the storage of 2 dinghies. And so I want to speak to that. The storage of 2 dinghies by itself will not affect the marsh. The storage will not be on the beach. It won't be at the base of the stairs. The dinghies would be securely mounted on the stairs off the beach. The impacts that the commission and staff may have to do with improper storage or improper use of the dinghies. We believe that the storage, in accordance with the conditions we have proposed, will have no adverse impact. There are only 2 dinghies to be stored, only 2 owners at a time. We're not dealing with many boats and many people, just 2 owners who will know what they have to do to comply with your order, who can readily comply with the arrangements being made, and who know that the consequences of failure, which they acknowledge, can be the commission's order to remove the storage mechanism and revoke permission to store the dinghies. Now, under those circumstances, it's unfair to assume that the owners of the dinghies will violate terms of approval. And based on an assumption of non-compliance, deny storage of the dinghies. Again, the storage itself will have no harm. The dinghies can be secured to the stairs and indeed locked in place, and they can be removed in advance of a storm. And directing access from the stairs to the river within a designated 4-foot strip next to the bulkhead as proposed in an area where there's very little growth of salt marsh at this time. That designated access area will protect the marsh. So please give these arrangements a chance. Now, as we've stated previously, and also as I set forth in a letter that I presume you all saw a week ago, the neighborhood was wronged. It was significantly wronged by the removal of its historic stairs, walkway, and pier, 50 years in existence. The approval or the allowance of that to happen came with no notice and no hearing. And the applicants used to keep their dinghies on that dock. It's taken years for them to litigate, to establish their rights. And by the time the applicants install the steps for the benefit of the neighborhood, and of course for themselves as well, they'll have spent on litigation, attorney's fees, designs, permitting, well over $200,000. $200,000. And the only reason they've done that is because they've been motivated to a great extent by the unfairness of what they suffered. They just want to have a little bit of what was wrongly taken from them, including that dinghy storage, to make it worthwhile for the people spending that money to do this. I respectfully urge the commission to use its discretion under these unique circumstances and approve the request. A request that's consistent with the settlement made with abutters in the land court, and something that you can do with exacting protective conditions as proposed to protect the resource areas. You may have other ideas for conditions. You may feel that there's more that we could do. We'd love to hear it. We've done an awful lot to try to convince the board that there will be compliance, that the commission has enough authority under the terms that we're proposing to be sure that there isn't a problem, or if there is a problem, to correct it by revoking the permission we're seeking. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Jeff, you can stop sharing, please. Thank you. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The commission, we've provided you all the documentation that was just presented. I did provide you some materials from the previous hearing that explains or clarifies the removal of that existing structure. No notice was given because the town was unaware of who owned that structure. The structure was not licensed with the state under Chapter 91, nor did it have a permit. That said, this staff has no issues with the construction of staircase, but we still do have concerns about the storage of the dinghies on the staircase. And then one thing that came to light today, Bob and Jeff, and I don't know if the new property owner at 123 is in the audience, but there's an osprey pole at the end of the bulkhead, and it's attached into the bulkhead. That platform will most likely need to be removed, or not removed, but relocated, because every time somebody goes down those staircase, those birds are going to get disturbed. So that's something just to think about. It'll probably be a condition, or staff's going to recommend a condition that relocates that osprey nest platform somewhere else in that right of way, possibly as close as it can be. But we do think that those birds are going to be disturbed every time somebody goes down there, especially during the construction of the staircase and access. So to alleviate the stress on that nesting pair, that platform most likely is going to need to be relocated. And that's all I have, unless Alyssa has anything to add.
No, yeah, that covers it. I just discovered the nesting pair of osprey today, and I scared them when I approached the site. So I'm not sure how long their breeding season lasts, but it should be removed or relocated rather after breeding season.
All right. Commissioner comments. Peter?
No comments.
Okay. Steve?
I just appreciate everybody working on this and getting an agreement together. It's really important to a number of people, and I think we've reached an agreement, and I appreciate the effort.
Okay. Betsy?
No questions or comments. Thanks, Jamie.
Okay. Courtney?
No questions.
Okay. I too appreciate the efforts everybody's put in with the management plan, monitoring and all that. Thank you. Maury?
No comments, thank you.
Pat?
No questions, thank you.
All right. Jen, is there anything in the public chat function?
Right now, it only looks like Attorney Ahmet telling me he's here for the hearing. Nope, I don't have anybody, and nobody's hand is raised, so I don't think there's any public comment, Mr. Chairman.
I'll make a motion to close the hearing and take it under advisement.
Harris, second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to close the hearing. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy?
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury?
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat?
Harris, aye.
Peter?
Walsh, aye.
Steve?
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Thank you, Mr. Ahmed.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Gentlemen and ladies.
Jeff, I'm just going to keep you here for a second.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, William F. Solomini Jr., 0 Quaker Road, Lot 001A 002, West Falmouth, Mass. For permission to construct a new single-family dwelling and install a new Title V septic system with all associated clearing, grading, and landscaping. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the applicant has withdrawn the application.
Excellent. Thank you. All right, that brings us to requests to amend an existing order conditions. First up, John A. Samorian, 21 Fay Road, Falmouth, Mass. Request to amend the order of conditions for Mass DEP number 25-4372 to permit the reconfiguration of required mitigation plantings. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Jeff Johnson is here with Brian Wall to walk us through this one.
All right, Mr. Johnson, you're up, sir.
If it's okay with the chair, may I start for the applicant?
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry about that.
Thank you.
Oh, there's Brian.
Good evening, everyone. For the record, Brian Wall, and I'm here tonight with Jeff Johnson, representing the property owners, Mr. and Mrs. John Samorian, owners of 21 Fay Road. You may recall that we were before the commission rather recently on March 2nd, and at that time we were seeking a certificate of compliance to close out several open permits. I had described the matter as trying to put a square peg in a round hole because we had some permits that were rather old that were under a different mitigation regime. And we had multiple projects. One of the projects required some mitigation, but then it was subsequently reduced, but the mitigation was not. But all of that mitigation went into the ground. And then we had another permit that required some lawn reduction, but that had not been done. So what we did was to try to close out these permits. We worked with the property owners and staff, and we developed a proposed mitigation plan that we believe solves the problem. And we presented that in detail to the commission back on March 2nd. Essentially, the proposal provides more mitigation than is required by all the permits and places the mitigation near the A zone, in the A zone adjacent to the coastal bank as required by the regulations. Our view of the feedback from the commission was relatively favorable, and we think there was a consensus on the plan, but there were questions regarding the process. There were questions as to why we were before the commission on compliance rather than seeking an amendment. And frankly, we hadn't considered an amendment because on its face, the permit had expired. But then Jen correctly pointed out that due to the COVID extensions, the permit was in fact still valid. And so we asked for a continuance, and we have since filed a request for an amendment. The proposal for the amendment is exactly the same as the plan was presented the last time. The only difference is that we're seeking an amendment and not compliance. And if the commission sees fit to approve this, the planting will obviously be done, and then we'll be back to ask for compliance. But at that point, the mitigation will therefore match the permit, and compliance should be relatively straightforward and routine. Jeff is here. He's prepared to go through the plan or revisit the numbers, but we were here just a matter of about 3 weeks ago. So I think the commission remembers what we had proposed. And in the interest of the hour at 9 o'clock, we'd like to turn it over to questions.
I think it would be helpful if to the board, Jeff, if you just went over it real quickly. Sorry, Brian, I know it's late.
No, that's okay. And Jeff's prepared. He has the plan and he can pop it up onto the screen.
So there was 700 square feet of mitigation that was required to reduce the lawn area behind the house from the previous conditions. There, as Brian pointed out, there's an existing order of conditions that authorized an addition at this end of the house with mitigation. That physical work never took place. However, there was a portion of the mitigation planted down here, which was about 487 square feet. what we are asking the board is to count this 487 square feet toward the 700 square feet that was required to reduce lawn area. That would leave 213 square feet remaining to be planted. What we are proposing to do is plant 430 square feet, more than double that difference, split into two areas. One here, which will expand this whole area of native buffer plantings up to the this post and rail fence, 180 square feet. And then an area up in here that is currently lawn that is 170 square feet. So we're asking the commission to allow the amendment, this amendment, to approve these two additional mitigation areas to satisfy the requirements for the previous order of conditions.
You good, Jeff?
Good, thank you.
Okay, you can stop sharing, please. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to let Alyssa take this one since she really did, like, as we referred to, the deep dive into these permits. So she's ready.
Alyssa, you're up.
Yes, thank you. I have some similar comments from the time the COC was requested and a couple new comments as well. I don't think Jen and I have any concerns with the location of the proposed mitigation. That is presently lawn area, so it would make sense for mitigation to be proposed there. We do have concerns with the use of sweet fern, also Virginia rose. There is a lot of rose already that was planted in the native plantings area on the plan that is south of the southernmost proposed mitigation area. That area was sort of a low mitigation and restoration area for a previous notice of intent. And there were a few concessions there, and there's already a lot of rows. So if we could have some more diversity in those mitigation plantings. I do have concern of the proposed tree. It's already a very wooded area. So I really do think the tree should be proposed elsewhere. I was very disappointed to see not only all of the already established mitigation, but a lot of the native plants being cut. Obviously, mitigation needs to be able to go to its full and mature form, and the newly proposed mitigation will also have that as an ongoing condition. So those areas need to be able to grow. I didn't know, and I'm sorry if I missed it. Do you know what proportion of mitigation versus restoration has been planted? My point in asking is for obviously every 1,000 square feet of mitigation should be a tree proposed. I didn't see that differentiate thus far while reviewing this property. I'm not sure if you have that information.
The mitigation for the previous project was no longer required because the work was not done. That's why we're asking not to plant that mitigation.
Okay. Even in that native plantings area, none of that was mitigation?
That was all restoration.
Okay.
That was all restoration.
Okay, thank you.
Right. So what we're asking for is to replant that that area, the balance of that 700 square feet from the earlier order of conditions.
Right.
Prior to the requirement for 1 tree per 1,000.
Okay. I think my only other concerns were, and I won't go into too much detail as I did on the staff report, but there were some trees already removed from the property. I'm not sure if there was intention of those being replaced. If there was, they should be replaced. That's all I have.
Thank you, Alyssa. All right. I'm going to go with commissioner comments. Steve.
I am now on this because it's now refiled, and I don't have any comments or questions. Thank you.
All right. Betsy.
No comments or questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Courtney.
No comments.
All right. Maury.
The only comment I have is that it was kind of interesting that the split rail fence was there, a double split rail fence. And we use those to protect mitigation plantings and restoration plantings, and they went over the fence and cut all that. So they really need to stop cutting that. That's all.
Great.
Thank you. Pat.
This is a refile, although I've already made my disclosure for the other action to get a certificate of compliance. I just want to repeat that I have a professional relationship with Attorney Wall, but I feel that I can act impartially, and I make this disclosure to dispel any appearance of a conflict. And I have no questions with regard to the project. Thank you, Jeff. That was a good explanation. I was surprised I could follow it because there's a lot of twists and turns in this. So thank you.
Peter.
Nothing else.
I want to thank the representatives of the applicant to change their request to a request that's more amenable to the commission.
Excellent. Jen, if on the note about the mitigation being cut, would that not mean that it meets compliance?
We'd have to, yeah, we'll have to evaluate that.
Okay. All right. That's my question or comment. Is there anything in the public chat function?
Nothing in the chat function, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to close this hearing and take it under advisement.
Bird, second.
All right. We have a motion and a second to close this hearing. Are there any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. Betsy.
Gladfelter, aye.
Courtney.
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury.
Hello, Hawks Eye.
Pat.
Aaron's aye.
Peter.
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have closed this hearing. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Thank you, Mr. Wall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Have a
Yes.
good night.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Aye.
Night.
All right, next up, request to extend the existing order of conditions. First up, Town of Falmouth, care of Greg Frazier, Harbor Master, 0 Town Landing Road, map 32-21-015-000, Falmouth, Mass, DEP number 25-4432, requesting a 3-year extension. Jen?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is the boat ramp off the off of Seapit Road on Town Landing Road. The project is being done by the Department of
I was going to ask you, but I mean, I thought
Fish and Game, their Office of Fishing and Boating Access, and they are requesting the 3-year extension. I have no problems with that.
Thanks for doing what we wanted to do.
Bird, so move.
Gladfelter, second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to grant a 3-year extension. There's no further comments or questions.
I was debating on whether.
All right, Betsy.
Staff in the field, but
Gladfelter, aye.
I did
Courtney?
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Fellow Hawks, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have granted a 3-year extension. Next up, Woods Hole, Martha's Vineyard, and Nantucket Steamship Authority, also known as SSA, foot of Railroad Avenue, Woods Hole, Mass, number DEP number 25-4151, requesting a 5-year extension. Jen?
Reconstruction of the ferry terminal. They did want to have a revised statement. I got an email from Mr. Bill Cloutier today. Jennifer, the reason we are requesting the permanent extension is because the Steamship Authority and architects have spent 3 years engaging with the public with different design options. The Steamship Authority did its best to consider all public requests while satisfying the program needs for our operations. They just need more time. I have no problem recommending a 5-year extension on this one.
On the last hearing, and I saw this.
So moved, Carlo Hawks.
Bird, second.
Jen, can you take Brian out of the meeting?
Oh, I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
I didn't even realize he was still there. Sorry about that, guys.
He's not muted.
Okay. Yeah, I got him over to attendees.
He's still in.
I know, I'm waiting. It takes a minute, Mr. Chair.
God, I'm
It takes a
sorry.
second. It's okay. This is just a delay. I apologize for that, guys. I didn't realize he was still in.
All right. All right, so we have a motion and a second to grant a 5-year extension. Betsy,
So
you can't vote, I'm sorry.
well, I can vote, but I have to say that I can vote impartially. So
Okay.
aye.
Perfect. Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Pat,
Harris, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have granted a 5-year extension. Next up, vote order of conditions. First up, Chappaquiddick Association, 0 Associates Road, Falmouth, Mass. And my understanding is the quorum does not include Betsy or Pat.
Correct.
Let me double check that, Mr. Chairman.
Or Kevin, but I didn't say it because he's not here.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, this is the reconstruction of what they refer to as Little Pier. It's actually a really big pier, but they refer to it as Little Pier over on Chappie Island. So it's pretty straightforward reconstruction. They're just replacing the existing structure in its existing footprint.
I give them points because their presentation was only 5 minutes. They get my vote. Anyway, does anybody have, anybody have anything specific they want to?
The only thing was the sign, they were gonna have signage, Jen, for public access.
Got it, signage.
So that's all I had on mine.
Okay. Anybody have anything else? Nope. All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to accept as discussed.
Bird, second.
All right. I have a motion and a second to issue an order of conditions as discussed. Courtney,
Bird, aye.
Matthews, aye. Maury,
Carlo Hawks, aye.
Peter,
Walsh, aye.
Steve.
Pat and I.
It is unanimous. We have issued an order of conditions. Next up, Karen Alcott, trustee of Small Cottage Realty Trust, 41 Fay Road, Falmouth, Mass.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this was the amendment that was originally Wayne Tavares' project, then Tom Bunker took it over. The board was expressing some uneasiness voting this as an amendment.
Can I interrupt you real quick? Just,
Sure.
I'm sorry, the quorum, it's the same, Pat and Betsy are not on it.
Correct.
My understanding. Okay, sorry about that.
No worries.
All right, so my opinion is this should be a new NOI. I mean, it's separate septic changes, there's grade changes, is the house is different, the resources are different. House is bigger. My 2 cents.
Wait a minute. Betsy and Pat are on this. We heard this on 2-9 amendment. So it's Courtney, Kevin, Maury, Betsy, Jamie, Peter, Pat.
Okay, I apologize.
But Kevin isn't here, so.
Oh, yeah.
Courtney, Maury, Betsy, Jamie.
Wait, no, you know what?
Pat.
You know what?
It's
You
not
are
Steve.
no, Betsy and Pat, you're not, because that was at the last one. I apologize. So Betsy and Pat are off.
Oh, so you had a
Steve is
hearing
on
last
this
week?
either.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't think Steve is
When I'm
on this
right.
one either.
What was that,
I
Alyssa?
don't think Steve is on this one either. Wasn't this the week where there's only?
Steve is not on it.
Yeah, Steve's not on it either.
I'm not on it.
So it's Courtney, Maury, Jamie, Peter.
So just 4.
Yes.
Correct.
That's correct.
All right, now we got that straightened out. Maura, you had a comment?
No, I'm all set. I just agreed with you.
Okay.
Was this closed last week?
Yes. Or no,
No, it was closed the week before.
2 weeks ago.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry, last meeting.
Yeah, because we were off.
16th.
Correct.
So anyway, the question before us is whether or not the scope of the proposed change exceeds what is allowed under an amendment, and that they should reapply for a full NOI, brand new one.
Correct.
So if we make them, I mean, I'm ambivalent on it. I could go either way. Frankly, I think it is a significant change, but you know, I could live with it as an amendment. It's up. You know.
It's
Okay,
like
so-
every other vote you take, put a positive motion on the floor, guys.
I'm gonna put a positive motion on the floor.
So the positive motion is to accept the order as discussed. Is that correct?
Yeah. Positive motion, Courtney, would be to grant the amendment.
That's what I mean.
Yes.
Issue an order of condition, approving the project as proposed.
Right.
Correct.
So we have a motion to that effect.
Do we have a second?
We do
Not yet. Peter
For-
just seconded.
For the sake of moving this along, I'll second it.
Or you put the motion on the table. Peter seconded it.
No.
Oh,
I
okay.
put the motion.
No, stop. Maury made the motion, Peter made the second.
Correct.
All right. So again, the motion and the second on the table is to grant an order of conditions as discussed. So I'm not going to put Courtney on the spot. I'll vote first, and I vote no. Maury,
No,
Peter,
Yes.
Courtney.
Yes.
Oh, joy. What do we do now?
Doesn't
Pass.
pass.
I'm sorry?
doesn't
Betsy,
matter.
it doesn't pass.
Thank
The
you.
amendments,
You
the
need a
amendments
majority. That's correct.
you
Okay.
need a majority of the quorum, which is 4. You need 3 of you. So At this point, the applicant just files the new notice.
Okay. All right. Before we go for the last motion, I just want to make a comment about background noise. Constantly something in the background, and sometimes I don't know what you guys see, but on my screen, like I'm speaking right now, so my frame is lit up. So whenever I hear somebody's background, their screen, their little piece lights up. So I don't want to pick on anybody or say anything. I'll just ask you to be careful what's in the background. It's like just a minute ago, I'm picking on Brian if you're still listening. I'm only using you for an example. You know, he was there. He probably didn't realize he was there, and he was whatever, walking around shuffling papers, and we could hear it. So all I'm saying is that that's what we hear. And maybe I'm guilty of it too, and I'm fine with somebody throwing a pie at me, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
My apologies for not removing Brian, Mr. Chairman.
No, it's fine. It's a perfect example. All I'm saying is sometimes we don't realize something's going on next to us. And
Yeah,
so,
sometimes to go on a second what you're saying, you know, somebody can be speaking very low in the background and you think it's not going to be heard, but the microphones pick it up. So,
yeah.
you know, you either have to turn your thing on mute or make sure it's quiet in your house.
Yeah, that's all I'm asking. Just pay attention to it, please.
Yes,
thank you.
sir.
And I know I had trouble with my audio. It seemed like I had trouble at the beginning of the meeting. So if that happens, please don't be shy about stopping me. That's all I have. Thank you,
I'll make a
everyone, for your
motion to adjourn.
participation. Shut
And
Jamie up.
second.
All right.
Gladfelter,
All right,
aye.
Bird eye.
Matthews, aye.
Hollow Hawks Eye.
Come on, Pat, you're breaking the stream here.
Pat's on mute.
Yes, Harris, yes.
Walsh, aye.
Pat and I.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Good night, everyone.